just take a few minutes to think about your golf clubs. I think would be very important. The more you're, and it's not like it's a hard thing to do. You say, okay, my driver, I slice it. My 3-wood, I hook it. My irons, I chunk them. My wedges, I scull them.
Sounds like they need to go in the ocean.
Sounds like Tin Cup over here, right? But try to think about your golf clubs and what you're doing.
Welcome back to episode 6 of the Loggerhead Golf podcast. We'll hop right into it this morning with a quick recap of the Wells Fargo, since it was a local event to us in North Carolina. It was located in Charlotte at Quail Hollow. Caleb, what were your thoughts for this weekend?
Well, congratulations to Wyndham Clark getting his first win on PGA Tour. Always nice to see a Titleist guy win.
Oh, gosh.
He got paid.
Yeah.
$3.6 million?
Yeah.
Yeah. That doesn't suck.
For your first win.
Yeah. Considering I think before this event, the most he's made was $400,000. So
That's a life changer.
Yeah. He's good for a few years.
Well, he's now,
career earnings of $4 million then.
Yeah. And he's made a lot more money. He's made a lot of cuts. I was going to say, that's guarantees all 4 majors, essentially, with the next year and a half.
His schedule for the next couple of years is set. Yeah.
Because it was a elevated event.
Right.
Caleb, you bring up a good point. Elevated event.
Yeah, what do you think about elevated events? I think we all have an opinion about those.
Well, my takeaway on elevated events, do we feel like because they have elevated the field, they've elevated the purse, is that giving us an elevated experience as a spectator, as a fan of golf? Are we getting a better product because of that elevated event?
We're certainly getting elevated prices to get in.
Right, but if you're not going to the tournament, that doesn't affect you. Just so you like the TV broadcast, the experience of as a golf fan watching golf, do you feel like you're getting a more elevated product?
Yeah, I think it was geared to try to attract better players or top players, and I don't think we're seeing that. We're still seeing a lot of players bow out. We're not getting those top players that we see in the majors playing in these elevated events. So I think it's a little lackluster myself.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. If you're watching a broadcast, I still have those same gripes and grumbles about it. There's too many commercials, too much putting, not watching enough golf shots. So I don't feel like I'm getting what I would want out of an elevated event. Now, the sponsors are, for sure.
I get, they're essentially saying it's elevated event because the purse is higher.
Right.
That's the only thing that's elevated about it.
But it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
To me, if you're elevating the purse, you should elevate the experience. It's a better experience for the fan. That's why they want to draw in the better field.
That's why essentially a year and a half ago when they brought up the elevated events to combat LIV, the PGA Tour is going to make it seem like it's an elevated experience. Well, we have not seen that yet.
Exactly.
You cannot, and the thing is, and you know what they did? It was actually perfect. Is their first elevated event this year was the Waste Management Phoenix Open. That tournament has always been elevated because of the stadium,
right,
and the party that it is. And they always said, what's the biggest thing from the Waste Management? You can't repeat this week. It only works one time. So, you can throw a big purse on it. Doesn't mean it's going to have a different product. It's nowhere near a major.
Waste Management definitely felt more like an elevated event, but the other elevated events have felt like a regular PGA Tour event.
Well, I think hitting on his note, because I've been to the tournament over 10 times, Quail Hollow was always one of those destinations everybody played anyway.
Right.
Phil, everybody went to see Phil, period.
Yeah, they've always drawn a good
Tiger,
field.
And, when Tiger used to play in it, Rory's kind of like that Tigerish star that always headlines Quail Hollow now, but it didn't even feel like Quail Hollow this week. It just felt like another golf tournament without the excitement that Quail normally has with all the big names.
Right.
Because you had Wyndham Clark, obviously, on a good win, but other than that, you had Schaffel in second, and then Adam Scott lit it up, but came in fifth, first in strokes gained putting, first in proximity to the hole, and nothing happened with that. Right. So there wasn't any, golf shots, quote-unquote, hit this week, and it was just kind of a pitch and putt, and just watching golf on TV.
Obviously, it's still a great event. Just don't feel like it's giving us any different of a product.
Well, what is exciting, That's the one thing I look forward to is traveling home every year to actually go and see it. And then, obviously, with a ticket increase, I didn't do that this year. But on the same token, looking back, it's like, what would I have gotten for my $130 other than walking around Quail Hollow? I
think
which is a brutal walk.
Yeah, it's a tough course to walk. But I think also, too, is to be clear, like, we're not just beating up on the PGA Tour or anything like that. We're golf fans, so we want to have a good golf
We want to see
product.
golf like it used to be.
Well,
Yeah.
you just
Yeah,
can't
exactly.
tell us you're giving us an elevated product.
Right.
You've made the players believe it's an elevated event. Okay, well, why does it? It should be pretty evident. You should be easily be able to feel like this tournament is different. Which, I mean, there was a lot of big names missing from it, so that didn't help. I mean, the big guys really didn't play well. Our picks did terrible.
I said we got to talk about Rory, right? What's going on with Rory right now?
I think
Especially since he's always, before
He's
you
played
even
well
know,
there in the
it's-
past.
if Quail Hollow, it's going to be Rory or Justin Thomas.
Right.
I mean, I feel like,
which Justin Thomas played well,
yeah.
Yeah.
relatively.
Didn't he shoot even, Rory?
Yes.
For the
One over for the tournament, I believe. Tied. I know he was tied
No,
47.
even.
Either way.
Yep.
It was,
He's 19 off the pace.
yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't have his best week.
I was going to say, we had Jason Day, Rory, and Cameron Young. I think Rory and Cameron Young barely made the cut on the number. Jason Day missed the cut by one at even par. So our picks didn't really do that great. I mean,
We may no longer be making picks.
Hold it like a lawn chair.
That was not our strong suit.
and
But, yeah.
again, we are being, what do you call those people that sit on the couch and criticize everything? Or
Armchair quarterbacks.
Yes, armchair quarterbacks.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're being armchair golfers right now. You can't tell me it's an elevated event and it not be an elevated event.
An elevated experience.
Yeah.
When it goes to your point of watching putting and tee shots, is I remember growing up, if you watched a golf tournament, you saw every shot, if not mostly fairway shots and wedge shots. You didn't see a lot of putting, and now it seems like with most broadcasting, it's commercial. As soon as they come back from commercial, we watch 5 or 6 putts,
Go back to
3
commercial.
or 4 tee shots, then commercial.
Yeah.
We might see 20 or 30 shots in a broadcast from the fairway.
Say, not to mention we got to break away from the golf action so we can have a sports report or update on something else, and then we go to commercial, and then we come back and we'll see a couple more putts.
And even when they say it's uninterrupted, they have like
It's the split screen
the
with it.
split screen, and
Yeah.
the golf's like so
Yeah, the
small.
pitcher and pitcher.
Yeah, and then they're running a commercial on the side of it.
I say the only thing that's on there while they're showing that anyway is golfers walking. So it's not like you're not showing you anything anyway. So
Yeah,
We should come up with our own broadcast.
right,
exactly.
Well, I think one thing that's cool about Adam Scott specifically, and it goes in today's subject, is he's got 4 brands in the bag right now. He's got Mizuno, Mura, Titleist, actually 5 brands, including the putter, the Mez, and then TaylorMade Woods and Titleist golf ball. It's, obviously he was a Titleist guy for a long time. Now he's uncontracted playing what he wants. So, with today's topic being how to buy a golf club, that's a great example of someone who's not got all the same brand but playing really, really good golf.
right. Well, obviously, those guys on tour they take every week to really work on their golf bags, make sure that they're only allowed to carry 14 clubs in their bag, and they want to make sure all 14 of those golf clubs are serving the purpose that they're meant to serve. They're doing that every week.
Yeah, they're basically specialized in the bag for that specific event, that specific golf course. Bounce, whatever they need. Maybe they're changing out a 2-iron to a hybrid, whatever the case. Maybe they need something more off a tee. But yeah, they're definitely dialing it in.
They're setting up that bag so they can have the most success possible for that week. And obviously, we realize for the everyday golfer, our weekend warrior, you can't do that every week.
No.
But we probably would say that every season, every year, you should probably look at your golf bag and think about, do you need to change anything? Or
But I
is there
think to
anything you
that
need
same
work on?
point is that like our members that are around the area, they're playing the same golf course almost every day.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not a reason to probably change their bag a whole lot because they're playing the same golf course every day.
I would argue the different with that.
I was going to say,
Just what's the weather here in North Carolina?
Well, I mean, season-wise,
If you don't
yes.
I
like
was
it,
gonna
wait
say,
5
you
minutes.
can't-
It's going to
I
change.
agree with that.
you can change. I think we have 3 golf seasons here in North Carolina.
Exactly.
We have cold, semi-cold, and then hot. There's no in between that.
And typically wet or dry.
Wet or dry.
I think winter golf here is just wet.
Yes.
You know,
And You can technically shape your bag for all 3 seasons.
You could.
I mean, I made a joke about it this weekend when playing. I think we're finally getting our summer yardages.
Right.
So I got to rethink a little bit of course strategy because the ball's going further due to the weather, not due to the golf ball.
But I think for our intents of our discussion today, our golfer in this scenario, they have decided they want to buy some new golf clubs. They've decided they want to change something in their golf bag. So our goal is to help them with that decision-making process and some things that we think they should do during that process. All right?
Absolutely. I think asking the right questions or knowing what to ask, maybe just having some brainstorming sessions with yourself before you go into your local shop, whether that be us or anywhere else, educating yourself maybe a little bit just so that you have some criteria or a direction before you go in, and some questions that can really help your fitter do the best job that he can do for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think every golfer should definitely take a few moments. I mean, it could be a mental exercise. Take a look at your golf bag. Think about the golf clubs you have in your golf bag, and think about how you hit each one of those golf clubs. Does that golf club perform the way you want it to perform? Is there something you would like to improve on what that golf club does in your bag? Think, just take a few minutes to think about your golf clubs. I think would be very important. The more you're, and it's not like it's a very hard thing to do. You say, okay, my driver, I slice it. My 3-wood, I hook it. My irons, I chunk them. My wedges, I skull them.
Sounds like they need to go in the ocean.
Sounds like Tin Cup over here, right? But try and think about your golf clubs and what you're doing, right? Yeah. What purpose do they serve? So that you're not just going and saying, I want to buy new irons, and then you go into a store, you grab the first set of irons that you see on a shelf, and you grab them, and you hit those the exact same way you hit your old set. You didn't change anything. You didn't accomplish anything.
But to our client's defense, I think what we're trying to get out too is that there may be people out there that don't know this process, didn't even know it exists. Mm-hmm. The fitting world exists.
Well, the fitting world didn't exist up until really about 4 or 5 years ago. Like a true detailed fitting experience like we offer, I should say. Every company, major manufacturer has been doing demo days, but we know how hitting clubs in a 30-minute session on a demo day on a range is going to go from one manufacturer, I would say.
But what if I'm a bad golfer? Fitting's not going to help me out.
Fitting most definitely will probably help you more.
I would agree. Yes. Yeah, I would say, to me, fitting for a, air quotes, bad golfer is more important than for a good golfer.
Well, bad or brand new doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter what level you are.
Because if you think about a good golfer, like let's take John Rahm, for example, or any of the top players. You give them a golf club you give him a driver that's way different than his current driver. What is John Rahm likely? Let's say his current driver setup is 8 degrees at extra stiff flex shaft and a 70-gram shaft in it. We give him a 12-degree driver with a regular flex shaft, and it's 44 inches. What's John Rahm going to do with that driver?
He's going to hit one ball and then hand it back to you.
No, he could probably make a swing and find a fairway and hit a
successful shot. Make an adjustment. He can make a 5-minute adjustment with that.
But if there's a huge difference for the, air quotes again, bad golfer, can they adjust their swing to tailor to the golf club?
No.
Probably not, right? So club fitting is definitely more important for the bad golfer, helping you get the most out of your golf swing.
So, well, Kyle, when we're saying word fitting, what does fitting mean?
Well, fitting, and this is why I love talking about it too, is there's so much misinformation out there. Because a lot of people think walking into a big box store and getting their height measured is a fitting, and that's only one step of a fitting.
Right.
Like with us, we do a small assessment first. We ask the questions of handicap, height. If you're brand new to the game, we take a wrist to floor measurement.
Injuries.
We get a little bit of background from the golfer. And then we just assess. Like, let's say they're brand new. Like, I had a client a few weeks ago who was 6'9", went into the store and bought a set of top flight box sets, and they were 2.5 inches too short. Mm-hmm. And he thought if he did that to take lessons first, it would help his golf game. But instead, he hurt his back and then ended up having to take a few weeks off. So, part one of that fitting is getting that, a little bit of background from the golfer, taking those measurements. 2, we'll watch them warm up. Take a little bit of a swing analyzation, look at swing speed numbers, and then really start to narrow down what club types they're going to fit into. Because with iron specifically, you've got your game improvement / super game improvement, so the easiest stick clubs. Then we have players improvement, so like with Mizuno, like a Pro 225 with TaylorMade 790, Titleist T200, Callaway Apex, and then you got, unless you get paid to play golf, clubs called blades. Hardest to hit. You know, there's really, with the modern golf ball, there's no real benefit to blades as far as spin rate wise, but definitely Shot Shapers golf club. And then we start to build the bag from there based on the distances we see throughout the irons.
Yeah. The spectrum of options is definitely much wider now
than it was 10 years ago. Yeah.
But I would highly recommend for all of our beginning golfers, if you say, no, I'm just going to pick up a set of golf clubs, I don't need to get fitted, that is totally the wrong way to go. At least get what we call your static measurements, your wrist to floor. Would you not guys agree with that? You know,
yeah, absolutely. I think it'd be smart for any golfer to seek professional advice on what they should do.
Yeah.
Well, I would say on the wrist to floor, and what I would say to any golfer, especially if you're looking at getting new clubs, easiest thing to type in Google, I'm 6'1", what length golf clubs should I play? Right. Don't do that to yourself. I do think it's important for the fitter to know your wrist to floor, but do not let your height or wrist to floor determine what length clubs you should play. Your golf swing is going to determine that, really.
Because you could measure out perfectly to an inch over, but if you're chunking every shot, we probably don't need to add that extra inch.
Yeah.
Or you're striking in the heel.
Striking in the heel. Yep, exactly.
You know,
so there's dynamic numbers that we need to look at as well as static measurements.
For sure. Yeah. For sure.
Well, I think too, and when we say get new clubs, we're not talking that you have to spend $3,000-$4,000. You can take a box set, like with us, we have Tour Edge. Mm-hmm. We can get your height, wrist to floor, make you hit a few balls with it, and build them from scratch here.
Right.
You know, you don't have to spend an atrocious amount of money to get into golf. And again, that goes to that misinformation factor where everybody's saying, go get fit. And then in most people's mind, fitted golf clubs are expensive.
I was going to say, just because a custom fit golf club does not have to be an expensive golf club.
Correct,
There are plenty of options out there for that. And I think it's important to, even if you're looking to buy new golf clubs, you should seek out some professional advice there. There's plenty of AI in the world now that can supposedly fit you for a golf club, but you can't replace, a set of professional eyes watching you swing and hit a golf ball and how that golf club's performing with your swing. There's just too many variables there.
Almost every website, every manufacturer has a online fitting tool. Do you guys think those work?
No.
No.
It's an algorithm-based system most of the time, and
they're programmed to spit out the most popular answer and push you to a sale.
And the shortest amount of time on the website, how do they capture a sale?
Yeah.
That's why I feel like most of these fitting online protocols, AI is great, but if AI was as accurate as possible, none of us would be sitting at this table. We'd be on TV.
I'll tell you, if there's one thing that burns me up more is there's a lot of big box companies out there and fitting companies that are all about the bottom dollar. And I get that. I get everyone's in business to make money, but at the end of the day, what we're supposed to be doing is growing the game as PGA professionals. And we can't do that if I'm just pushing a sale down someone's throat. We really want to help people get fitted for the right clubs that betters their game, have a more enjoyable experience on the golf course. And I think that's what it should be about. And that's our focus here. I think that's what every golf professional's focus should be. Not just trying to, inflate their numbers. So.
Yeah, exactly. Well, going to that, I would say also for the golfer, for the golf professional, our objective is to help you achieve and accomplish your goals in the most effective way possible. And I would also throw in that the most cost-effective way possible as well, too, depending on the golfer's budget.
Yeah, depending.
We understand that golfers have different budgets, but we're not always just trying to throw money at a problem. So I would just say with the golfer and some things that can help their golf professional that they go to for advice, help them achieve their goals, accomplish their goals quicker, is having some objectives. So you're taking that couple of minutes to think about your golf clubs. Yep. Have some clear objectives in mind of what you feel like would help you be more successful on the golf course. What can I change that would help me perform better? That way, your club fitter, your golf professional has something to work towards, right? They have a goal to achieve. They can, if we have a clear, first thing that's said in most every fitting.
Driver.
Well, let's say for a driver, it doesn't matter. We ask them, hey, what would you like to improve about your current driver? What's the most common answer?
I want to hit it further.
Nah, mine is usually, I want to be more consistent.
Relative.
Right?
Yeah.
But what is consistency? Because, I mean, that's a term that's very open-ended, right? We could have, there's several different ways we could measure.
You can be consistently inconsistent.
Well, not even that. We could use several different variables to say more consistent. More consistency could be I want to hit the same trajectory every time. I've got a slice. I want to get rid of that. I want to have a consistent draw. I'd like to hit my ball consistently higher, consistently lower. I want to hit it the same distance every time. So just saying I want to be more consistent is very open-ended. So when you go to your fitter, have a clear goal in mind. I would like to hit my driver higher with a little slight draw. Give that fitter something that they can work.
Well, you talked about objective.
Yeah.
What is some basic objectives that every single golfer can assess? Like, with our help, can assess their bags when looking at new golf clubs. Like the easiest one for me, a basic objective, especially with irons, is at your next round of golf, really pay attention if you're hitting it close to the heel or toe.
Correct. Strike
That's
location.
a strike location. That's objective one. Because this is stuff that a beginner golfer can pay attention to.
Correct.
Right? That right there, if you look at your clubs and you're like, you know what? My wear marks are actually way out on the toe. You can come in and show your fitter that.
And we know immediately.
A certified fitter is going to know
has to go down
exactly
for that.
where we need to go from just looking at that. It's like that's objective. I want to not hit it in the toe all the time.
Exactly. So that's why I say I think you got to take just a couple minutes to think about your clubs, your bag, your game, and have a couple objectives in mind to help your fitter, your club professional, help you reach those goals.
I think a couple of those questions go along with you guys. Is that trajectory? Think about your trajectory that you're hitting. Are you hitting greens and stopping the ball on the green, or do you hit the green and does it run out? Usually that's a sign that the spin rate's too low. Maybe that could lead to a shaft change. So there's all things these are some of the things that you can think about. Drivers the same way,
I mean, using irons as an example, let's say you come to us, you give us your objective is I hit my irons really solid. However, I can't hold greens with them. So we know right away we probably need to work on descent angle. We're going to achieve that with either more launch or more spin rate.
Or a lower CG head.
That may be that may be a change to the club head, the shaft, or we might just make a simple golf ball change.
And I was going to say, in a fitting, can we change the shafts and the clubs?
Absolutely, 100%. That's what we're there to do.
That's the cheapest. Sometimes the cheapest way to go about.
Well, the biggest thing now, because box stores have become popular, when a consumer walks in, they see an iron set on the shelf. What they really don't know a lot of times is that exact set can be customized, and you still get that same exact price for those clubs.
Right.
And I think that's ultimately what we're alluding to is you have so many options available to you due to facilities like ours and others. And that's why my biggest point would be you shouldn't buy new golf clubs nowadays without at least seeing all your options.
Right.
You agree?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's very important to test the stuff out. Now, and I think also, too, another question or another scenario I had in my mind when we were talking about this topic was, and as we've alluded to, there's tons of options out there. So what if I know that I want to change something in my golf bag, but I don't know exactly what that is or how to change it or what to change? Can I stay with my current golf clubs and make a few adjustments, or do I need to change something? Are there some ways that golfer can start to narrow down, get a more clear definition of what they need to do?
Well, I think with the service through us, they can go through a gap fitting.
Correct.
Just to see what their distances actually are, because we hear it every day as every golfer that walks in our building hits a driver 300 yards and they hit a 7-iron 175.
Right.
Even though mathematically, there's numbers you have to be on to hit those numbers. Because it's one thing to get a lot of roll, but it's another thing to only carry that 300-yard golf ball 260 yards in the air.
Right.
Because if it rains, what happens? It's plugging at 260. It's not rolling out 40 yards.
Yeah, I think a gap fitting is a very powerful service. Obviously, it's something that we call it gap fitting, but I mean, other golf professionals can do it as well too. What we're going to do when we go in that gap fitting is we're going to watch you hit and make a few swings, 3 to 5, 10 shots, depends on how many it takes, with every golf club in your bag. Because what's the hardest thing as a club fitter when you've got a golfer in front of you there to get fit for golf clubs? What's the hardest thing? You've never seen this golfer before.
Probably.
You don't know their game, right?
Correct.
You don't know the swing. You don't know their game. You don't know
We
their
don't know
ball
who
flight.
they are.
Sorry, I didn't know what direction you were taking
Right.
there.
So this gap fitting session really is a way for you,
Is this a trick question?
your club professional to begin to learn your game, your tendencies, your swing, how you hit your wedges, how do you hit your short irons, and your mid, your long irons, and then how's that angle of attack with the driver? What are their tendencies? How do they do that? And through that session, a good club fitter can give you some feedback about. I think with your irons, you've got a nice set of irons here. We might make they're forward, so we can make a simple lie angle tweak to help out with strike location. Maybe we change the length a little bit on those. Wedges, it looked like you were getting a little steep. We probably need to change into some different wedges for some different bounces, different grinds on those. The driver, we need to look at, you've got way too much loft. We need to look at a different head. So that club fitter through that process can start to give you some of those objectives that we're talking about that will help the club fitter out.
I think what makes you guys exceptional fitters, I think all of us very good fitters, is the fact that we also teach. We understand that, okay, I've got a player that's got a really negative descent angle. They're really steep, so they can hit a 7-iron. If it's a faster speed player, maybe better, if they're swinging a 7-iron at 92 miles an hour, they can hit a 7-iron 180 yards. Mm-hmm. I can swing it at 90 miles an hour and hit it 170 maybe 165. But we discovered, and I'm working with Caleb one time and Kyle, that I add loft and I'm also a little positive, like 1 degree positive on my attacking with an iron.
I think we were all there while we were doing
Yeah, okay.
So all of us were there.
It was a group effort.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Caleb is just the absolute opposite. He's 3 or 4 down. So
I'm even extreme.
yeah,
So
I D-loft the club
7
probably.
iron, I might be 5 to 6 degrees down, but I'm also 5 or 6 degrees toe down.
yeah.
Where Nicky's 5 or 6 degrees down, but he's also 5 or 6 degrees toe up. So
Can't bend a club flat enough for me.
right, but those are the things that we learn through a session like that. If we're just jumping straight in and you're like, I want new golf clubs, and we're just trying to get new golf clubs, we don't have necessarily the time to learn your golf swing and learn those little nuances, right?
That bodes
How to best serve you.
Well, that bodes a good question, right? I'll ask you guys before I say what I do. Do you fit a club to their swing, or do you change their swing to fit a club?
Well, it depends, but in a club fitting, we're going to change a golf club to fit a swing.
I think that goes back to the interview process, what they're working on. They tell me that they're actively taking lessons. I think that changes how I navigate the fitting. Versus I slice the ball. I don't take any lessons. I just need more consistency.
But what did you mean by consistency?
I need to hit the ball. I need to have less of a slice. Is probably in that
Perfect.
in that scenario.
Perfect.
That's what they're going to say.
Perfect.
So I need to hit more fairways. So
I think on my spectrum, because I do look at it a little differently, when I fit the club I'm fitting for that specific person, aside from lie angle, should work with any swing they actually make.
Yeah.
Because logistically speaking, from a shaft perspective, that coach isn't going to get you 15 miles an hour. That's going to come from diet and exercise. So when you're making the swing changes, yes, you can influence a swing 2, 3, 4 miles an hour. Or if we're working on swing catalyst, using the force plate, we can make some bigger adjustments there. But I think if I have a player who's dedicated and they're working with an instructor, they're getting better at golf, I'm going to lean on more of a forged golf club.
Yeah.
Because forged used to mean hard to hit because everybody assumed they were blades, but they've got game improvement irons for 30 handicaps now that are forged.
Right.
Because you're going to be able to manipulate those clubs for 2-3 years without having to
Fully forged.
Yeah, fully forged.
Yeah.
But
Not forged face.
you can manipulate those clubs as the swing change instead of you've got to instead of cells that are cast or a set of 790s that have a cast hosel. well, once we fit those lie angles, you're stuck there.
Right. Yeah, so being able to adapt the golf clubs to the golfer as their swing changes.
Correct. That way it's not a singular use club, because going back to the gap fitting, the one thing it's kind of exposed in golf is you're allowed to have 14 clubs, but most golfers have a 3-wood, 5-wood, and 7-wood that do what? They all carry the exact same yardage or within 2 yards of each other.
I say, well, yeah, they end up in the same place but get there a little bit differently.
Yeah.
We can change cast clubs. It's just a little bit hard maneuver. We actually have to send those back to manufacturer because they get heated and tempered.
Most manufacturers won't do it anymore. Ping's about the only one. Everybody else has now stopped that process.
It's a shame.
So I'll say it bodes back to our main point: how to buy a golf club. How can our average consumer, a new golfer, doesn't matter who they are, how would they be able to go into our store and know which club's forged or which club's cast?
Well, I mean,
what's the easiest thing to look at?
So there's a couple ways you can do it. Probably, I'll say if you're already in store, ask someone. But if you haven't walked into the store yet, there's tons of information out there. I mean, I hate to tell you to go to Google and do that, but at the same time, I would encourage you to do that. Just because there's a lot of information out there. Get some information first. If we're talking about the club buying process, ultimately, at the end of the day, our goal is to help you make a smart decision. So it's almost like a scientific process of buying a golf club, right? First thing you should do is think about the golf clubs you have. What do you want to change? Next thing you should do is seek some professional advice. What do I need to do? Next thing you do is probably do a little bit of research. Take a look at what's out there, what's offered. What are some things that might interest you? What are the prices of some of those options? That helps you work on your budget. And then I would say go in, you do that, you commit to a changing golf club, you purchase your golf clubs, you go back to that fitter and allow them to dial in those few options you decided on or what really interests you. So going back to your question, Nikki, obviously go to the manufacturer's websites, read their marketing jargon about the golf clubs and kind of learn the technology they have put into those things.
Well, and my biggest thing, because like Kyle says, we can adjust a forged club.
Right.
But the most important thing in that I think the bullet points of what you should look for is if a club says it's a forged hosel and a forged face, it's not a fully forged golf club.
Right.
If it doesn't mention anything about face or hosel, it's actually really a forged golf club. Because the reason why that's important is like a TaylorMade P790, that forged hosel, and majority of the club is the hollow body design. We may be able to bend it and manipulate it to a degree, but it's going to have memory and it's going to go right back.
At some point is when I want to go back.
Meanwhile, a fully forged club, we can typically bend it 4 or 5 degrees if we wanted to.
And the caveat to that is also, I would suggest every quarter having your clubs checked. And depending on how much golf you play, if it's forged and it's really soft, even if it's cast, I mean, you still want to get your lie angles checked probably at least every quarter when you're playing.
Yeah, I would say at the minimum, start of each golf season.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to understand, too, a lot of golfers out there may not be playing enough to justify every quarter.
That's what I'm saying. It really depends on how much golf you're playing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I think, too, it goes back to the bullet points that you made, the process. Because obviously they've thought about it enough to even inquire about the fitting.
Right.
So when they're ready to purchase and they do go into the store, there's still going to be thinking involved, and we know that. So I think one thing I would like to say to people who are listening is communicate with your fitter or with your instructor during the fitting.
Correct.
It's not just your fitter, your PGA professional that you're working with, job to only be the one talking, communicate.
Yeah.
The things that we can't control is what do you like the look of? What do you like the feel of?
Yeah.
What do you like the sound of? And not everybody's going to have a feel, look, sound preference, but for most golfers, sound is feel and look promotes confidence.
Well, that brings up a good point because YouTube will tell you otherwise. But does looks of golf clubs matter?
Yes,
100%.
absolutely.
Does it matter what level golfer you are?
Nope.
No.
Exactly. So I would say that's usually like a great kind of icebreaker. Is like I'll ask a lot of our clients, "Hey, how does this club look to you?" And they'll look at me and they'll be like, you want me to honestly answer?" I'm like, absolutely. I was like, because I want you to be confident. You have to like what you're looking at. Yeah. So And that's a biggest thing too. So if you go in and it doesn't matter what level of golf you are and you're like, hey, I want to make sure this club looks like this, your fitter is going to say, perfect.
Correct.
Awesome.
We've got an avenue. We know what street.
That's an objective.
Yeah, exactly. We got an objective. We know what street we need to stay on.
Yep.
I mean, we've had people not buy golf clubs just because of the color. Performance was there, everything was there, but they didn't like the color.
And that's completely okay.
Yeah, exactly. Look,
and
I
that's
mean,
great.
I'll be totally honest. I play the golf clubs I play because I prefer the way they look.
Yeah. Well, and a better player typically will also go off a face angle.
Yeah.
You know, because they're trying to work the ball. Where, you know, your starter golfer, someone who's never played before, they may make their decision totally based on just the color or the visuals or the aesthetics of the club.
But yeah, you're 100% right, Kyle. I would definitely agree that the golfer who is in the club fitting, give your fitter as much feedback as you can. You know, help them help you.
Can real quick, can you get fit for every club in your bag?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people don't realize what's probably the one thing that's the most important club in the bag, Kyle, that people don't get fit for.
Putter. 83% of players don't get fit for a putter.
Well, and what golf club are you going to strike or hit more than any other golf club in your bag?
Putter.
About almost twice as much as any other golf club in your bag.
If I could give everyone some advice, stop chasing distance.
Well, it's not even that. Just don't forget how important the putter is.
Exactly.
You know,
Well, I think that's what we see is all these people are willing to go out every 6 months and spend $400 to $600 on a driver, but you show them a putter that's $200, $300, $400.
Oh, they laugh at it.
And well, I'm not paying that for this.
Right.
And it is the singular most important club in the bag. Period.
Absolutely.
at the end of the day, the golf club that you can shave the most strokes off your score with is going to be putter.
Because think about it from this perspective, because we've talked about it with this golf ball discussion is, can you miss a fairway and make birdie? If you three putt, can you make birdie?
No.
Probably not.
If I drive
I was
a
going to
green.
say, and the putter's unique.
On a par five.
It's the only golf club in the bag where your goal is to use it less. Every
Yep.
other golf club, you kind of want to use it more. Putter, you want to use it less.
Yeah, and I think that's what's so fascinating with Sam Putt Lab and what I do every day is there's methods out there, obviously. Like Dave Pels has a putting method. Dave Stockton has a putting method. Brad Faxton, Hank Haney, they have methods, but there's uniqueness in every putting stroke that
Sure.
only you have. So the old school way of getting fit for a putter of, oh, well, you're straight back and straight through, you need a face bounce putter. It doesn't work because you can have 3 degrees of arc, but you can have 11 degrees of face rotation.
Right.
You're going to need some toe hang.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so there's a ton more variables that go into that.
And
that putter
I was
fitting.
going to say in this conversation, it's because we're all experienced. I mean, we were all in that point at one time in our golf careers that we didn't know what fitting was. Like, I'm a prime example of a golf professional that's always gotten clubs that really never got fit for them until I really started fitting, learning about custom fitting, 4 years ago. I was a prime example. Yeah, just hand me an extra stiff shaft, hand me a 9-degree driver head, hand me some irons that I like to look at, and I'll go play golf. But I realized that how much I can hone in, how much better I can strike the ball with properly fitted clubs. I'm 6'1", so technically with my wrist floor, because I have long arms, I need standard golf clubs, right, on paper, according to Google. I play a 1/2 inch long just because that's what's comfortable with me, and also with how low my hands are through impact and how much I rotate. If I had that short golf club, I'd probably miss the ball off the toe. So,
or like with your nip-ons, you were hitting a spinny hook and it had nothing to do with your swing for the most part.
but I was constantly trying to change my swing due to that, though.
And as soon as we made a shaft change, what happened? The hook went away. For the
It's
most
less
part.
of a hook.
Yeah.
He can still hook it,
Yeah.
Hey, I want to hook it.
unless it's a 3-iron.
That's hard to hook. Oh, yeah.
Watch.
Never mind. Never mind. I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah. So obviously putting is very important. Seeking professional advice is very important. We would always recommend, regardless of where you're at in that process and what your thoughts are, what your objectives are, is to seek professional advice. Thinking about that process, thinking about the golf clubs in your bag, what you might want to change about those. Having an evaluation of your golf clubs, let's call that the gap fitting. Have a professional evaluate your current set. How do you hit them? Are there any gaps we need to change or close up in that? doing a little research,
Yeah.
having clear objectives, clear goals. Once you do make a buying decision, play a little golf with your golf clubs, and then what would we probably recommend those golfers do after that?
Probably give us some feedback.
100%. Give us some feedback. Let us know how we did. Did we accomplish your goals? Right? If we didn't, are there some things we need to look at and try to change to help you accomplish those goals?
Well, I think, too, being realistic about it. A lot of players think that just because they get a full new set, the first round of golf is going to be a magical round.
Right.
There is a calibration period.
Yeah.
You've never been fit before. Let's say you're a brand new golfer. You're just starting out playing golf. There's going to be a calibration period to get
100%.
adjusted.
Yeah.
Or, what we see a lot is most ladies that we fit, most women don't fit into women's golf clubs.
Not very few. There are some.
Right. So if they've played these 40-gram, C5 swing weighted irons their entire playing career, and now we've given them an iron that's D0 and 60-gram soft regular senior flex, they're hitting it 30, 40 yards further sometimes. There's going to be a calibration period where they're going to go out, they're going to pull 7-iron from 90 yards because that's what they used to. And what do? They fly it over the green.
Yeah.
So be realistic about that, the first couple rounds that you also play with those new clubs.
So to close it off, how you just bought new golf clubs. How long would you say it's going to take to get comfortable with them?
It depends.
It really depends on how much golf they play
Yeah.
and how much they practice.
Will you immediately know in one round?
No.
No, absolutely not. I think it even takes more than 3 rounds. I'd say at least get 6 to 10 rounds under your belt.
I was going to say, I would say at least, if you're playing once a week, give that first month.
Right.
Yes.
Mentally prepare yourself that, hey, something's going to be different, And now that being said, you could play for that month. If something feels off, you go back to your professional that you talk with and you go over that,
Right.
Because that's the biggest thing is, your golf swing can change from day to day, right? So like that fitting that one day, you could be feeling a certain way and you can come in and it could be a little
Just slightly off.
off. We might have fit you for 2 degrees flat during the fitting. And then a month down the road, you come in, we see that your dynamic lie is, 3 degrees toe down. It's like, oh, well, you know what? Let's bend these back a little bit upright.
Back off of that.
And
Yeah.
because that's the thing, change is completely okay. And I think it's super easy a lot of times for golfers to fall in love with a club.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Obviously, it takes time to get used to new golf clubs. And then quite obvious with that as well, too, the more you hit them. So playing and practicing, the quicker you get used to them. There's always that element of it as well.
Yep.
But, yeah, like I said, don't be afraid to come back and let us know how we did. Give us some feedback. How are the golf clubs performing? Did we help you accomplish your goals? If not, we want to try to help you accomplish your goals. That's what we're there for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or help you love your game.
Well, there you go. That don't suck.
Ridiculous.
Well, awesome. Well, I think, if you guys have any other questions, feel free to call us, email us, or DM us on Instagram. If you haven't already, like and subscribe on YouTube and turn on your click bell notifications because as soon as we upload a video, it'll send you an alert. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week for the PGA Championship.
Yeah.
Nice.